Do you want to know how to edit your Instagram photos and build a cohesive theme like many popular travel bloggers? I'm not that popular, but I'm a travel blogger. Well, stick around because in this episode, I'm guiding you on how to find your editing style and build a cohesive theme so that way you can boost your following if you're looking to take that route of professional photography, or if you're just a hobby traveler and you want your photos to look good for Instagram. This episode is for you. Let's go, roll the intro. Instagram to me is a modern day scrapbook. When I was in high school, not that long ago, I used to print my photos and then pin them to a corkboard in my room, but now I upload them to Instagram, and when I'm feeling nostalgic, I'll scroll through my feed and relive my moments when I was traveling, and I know I'm not alone in that. So like I said, if you are just a traveler and you want your photos to look good for all, you know, the stalkers out there, then we can do that. I can help you with that. Or if you are wanting to take travel blogging seriously or Instagram seriously and boost your following, then this video is also for you. So everybody wins. To give you a little bit of background on my knowledge and how I've come to know so much about editing photos, which I don't, I'm still learning. But 2 years ago, I picked up a DSLR and I just non-stop practiced. I went out every weekend to shoot. I read the manual to Canon, which is so boring. I read it on airplanes. I read it on lunch breaks. Any chance I got, I was studying photography and practicing. And that leads me to the most important point. Eventually, you got to stop watching tutorials and go out and actually take a photo. It's the hardest thing to do, but you got to do it, because until you are playing with your knobs and doing all that and framing composition, you're not really gonna learn until you've done the hands-on work. So if that is you, if this is like your 10th tutorial you've watched today, just bye. You gotta go practice, go outside, take a photo. Now, before we jump in to Lightroom, there are two factors that go into producing a banging photo for Instagram. The first one is your style, your composition. What are you wearing? How do you angle your photos? And the second is the post-editing process, which we will get into. So I'm going to show you how to edit a raw image on Lightroom desktop. And the second way is going to be a JPEG image in Lightroom CC Mobile, which is completely free. So I'm going to give you two options. The vast majority of you will be editing your images in a raw. We will get this right. If you're looking to take this to a more professional level, then you need to be thinking about your brand. More specifically, you need to be thinking about your color scheme. For example, Seeking Neverland the brand is meant to be outgoing and colorful, more city vibes, food. So I would want more vibrant colors, more saturated colors. And also my color scheme is oranges and blues and yellows. So when I'm planning my imagery, my photos for Instagram, I take into consideration what I would be wearing, where I'll be shooting, the props that I'd be using. Do those align with my color scheme? That makes it significantly easier to build a cohesive theme. And also when you're in post, when you're color grading, you'll already know the adjustments on those particular colors, like how to make it look consistent. If you ever see those photos where the blues look the same in all of them, those settings, you would already have a better sense of how that works in post. So, yeah, little tidbit. So, we are going to jump into Lightroom desktop. It's time. It's time to start editing. Okay, we are in Lightroom desktop, and to give you a very, very quick view of what I'm looking at, in the Develop tab, on the left you have your navigation pane, which is like your presets, your history, your collections. The center is the photo that we will be editing, and then the far right are all your adjustments, your tone curve, your HSL sliders, all that good stuff. And here in the bottom are all the photos that are within this collection for easy toggle between all the photos in the collection. But the photo that we're going to be editing is this one that I took at Milk Bar here in Las Vegas. This is what we are looking to achieve. So let's start editing. The first thing I do on every photo I edit is scroll to the bottom here and enable profile corrections, which gets rid of that vignetting, I don't know, whatever you call it. And then I'll level it off after I crop it to Instagram's dimensions, which is either 1080 by 1080 or 1080 by 1350. I'm gonna go for 1080 by 1080, boom. That looks good. Hit return or enter. I'm such a Mac girl, sorry guys. Now we will begin our editing. So in the tone, I'm going to increase my exposures just a little bit. I usually go between 0.3, 0.5, not too much. The contrast looks pretty good. I won't really mess with that. Highlights, when you decrease your highlights, you're essentially adding more color back into the photo. When you increase it, you're kind of washing it out with some of those whites. So I'm gonna lower it a little bit. I'm going to increase the shadows just because that left hand is in the shadow. I'm going to increase that quite a bit. The whites just a little bit, and then the blacks, we'll probably leave the blacks as is. I will eventually be adjusting the vibrance and saturation, but I do that last. Now I'm going to increase the temperature just to bring back some of the nice color in the skin tone just a little bit. And for the tone curve, I usually will drop a little pin in the center and I'll increase or decrease. It's really varies picture by picture. It just depends on, you know, this is a good point that if you shoot around the same time every day, you won't have to do so much in post editing because the exposures will be to your liking. So I will increase the tone curve. I'll leave that alone. I don't do too much on the tone curve typically because it's very sensitive and I don't feel comfortable putting all these little dots everywhere. Now for the HSL sliders, I like my blues to be more on the teal side. So I usually bring it about -33, -30, and then I will go to my luminance and decrease or increase it. But I like that bright teal blue, and that looks good to me. So I'm gonna move on to my yellows. Now, that peachy look that's so popular on Instagram right now, most of them are adjusting their yellows and their split toning, which we'll get to in a second. But as far as the yellows, they generally decrease the yellows. As you can see, you're already getting some of that rosy color in there. So I'll decrease my yellows and I'll play around with the saturation to get it to my liking. I don't think I have to do too much. Just think on the milk, I want to just make it pop a little bit more. So I will slightly increase the saturation just a little bit. And to prevent yourself from over editing, it's good to pause and see the before and afters and, you know, see how far you've come, so that way you don't end up with like this overly edited photo. So whenever you're doing the HSL adjustments, there's this little toggle here. If you click it, you can see what it looked like before you made all the color adjustments. And I think that that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna move on to my split toning. The split toning, in my opinion, is where the magic happens. A lot of the stylized edits that you see from travel bloggers, if they have different tones that you like, it's usually in the split toning. I keep my hue like an orange peachy hue, and that's around, I like it at 33. if you hold down the option and click the slider, you can see what it would look like at maximum saturation. And so I like mine more in the orangey peachy side. We're just making up colors, which is 33, and I will keep my saturation between 10 and 15. Again, it's preference, but you want to just make slight adjustments at a time to prevent yourself from over editing. And again, I'll toggle this off and on. As you can see, there's just a slight adjustment to the overall warmth. I don't mess with my shadows. It's just preference. Again, you can hold down the option on a Mac and slide it. If you like that teal in your shadows, you can do that as well. I just don't mess with it personally. And moving on, the last thing I like to do, camera calibration. If you like that teal look, that teal and orange look, I'll usually lower my blue primary hue just a little bit to -3, and I will bump up my red primary to +3. Toggle that. You might not even be able to see it on this video, but I can see it, and it's just a very slight adjustment. If you are wanting to check the overall before and after on your keyboard, you're gonna hit the / and it will pull up the before and the after. I think that looks pretty good as is. Before I give it my final good okay, I will come back up here and adjust my vibrance if need be a little bit, and then you can adjust your exposures however you want. But I think that looks good overall, before, after, and then we are done. So that is how I edit my raw images in Lightroom desktop. Are you still there? Good, okay. It's a long one, but we are now moving on to Lightroom Mobile to edit a JPEG image. So go ahead and download the Lightroom CC app. It's free. If you haven't already, create an account and open it up. Let's go. So we are going to be editing this photo. It's a JPEG photo of me at Disneyland Paris. Highly recommend if you haven't been. And I will start this edit just like I start all the other ones, except I don't enable profile correction just because it's a JPEG. I don't need to, but I will crop it. Instagram is either a 1:1 or a 4:5. Hit the check mark, and I will go to my light, and again I'll increase my exposures just a little bit. That looks good. I will decrease my contrast, and the highlights, I think the highlights look good as is, so I'm bring up my shadows a lot, increase my whites, and increase my blacks. Now, if you want to see the before and after in the app, just hold down the photo, and then lift off, and you will see the after. And already that's made a huge difference. Now I will move on to my color. I'm going to increase the temperature to make it a little warmer. I will boost it a little bit, and then I will go into my HSL. Again, I like my blues to be more of that teal, so I will lower my hue to around 30, 33. That looks good, and then I will increase my luminance. I'm not going to do too much with my saturation. I think it looks good as is. And then I will move on to my yellows. Again, if you want that rosy, peachy tint to your photos, you're going to want to decrease your hue. As you can see, it's already getting pretty pinky or orangey, whatever. And then increase your saturation. And that looks good. I will leave it as is. I will increase my luminance a little bit. And the orange, I will, in the balloon here, it's more red. I want it to be more orange to go with my aesthetics. So I will increase the hue to an orange. I will increase the saturation a little bit. And the luminance, that looks good. One thing about JPEG is it's already compressed, which is why you have to really push to get those photos and that editing in, which is why raw images, raw format is so much better, because you have more flexibility in your style of how you want to edit them. So that looks good. I'm gonna hold down for before and after. That looks crazy different. And let's see, I think that actually is it. It looks good to me. It's bright. It has my orange and teal vibe. Before is really cool and dark, and then now we have this nice bright crisp photo. So I'm going to export it by save to camera roll, maximum available, and we are done. We made it. We edited 2 photos, a raw image on Lightroom desktop and a JPEG on Lightroom mobile. If you stuck around, YouTube and myself thank you so much for the watch time. Make sure you hit the subscribe button because there will be a new video in like 3 days, which is Instagram spots in Las Vegas. So, peace.